So me and a couple people on my Discord have been working on this Automaker application. I think I made a couple of videos on it, but I want to give a full walkthrough of some of the features that we've added recently. So if you go to Automaker.app and click on the repo, you can go and clone this. By the way, if you want to give it a star, that would really help us out. And what Automaker is, it's basically a way to run autonomous agents to build out applications for you. But you can also just run it as like a Claude code wrapper to kick off various tasks inside of Git work trees and other things, which I'll kind of demo. We have a lot of new features that we added over the past couple of days. All right, so let's go to the repo. If you do an npm install and then an npm run dev, it should work. And then it's going to ask you, do you want to run this in an Electron app or do you want to run it in a browser? I'll say Electron app because I think it's a better user experience. Now, Automaker does use the Claude Code agent SDK under the hood, so you do have to have like a Claude Code CLI installed to get this working. But I'll kind of show you how it works when you do have it set up and you go through the walkthrough. So I have various projects set up already. I have my Agentic Jumpstart project. I have my Automaker marketing project. I have Automaker set up. But one of the core features that we wanted to support is existing projects. And I have a lot of them, right? So for example, if I go to my workspace, but while I'm using this UI, I realize that it's not the best user experience. I should be able to type I and go straight to icon generator. But for right now, it's like I can't do that. So I have to go and select the folder. And now we have the icon generator project opened up. But I'm going to go back to Automaker because again, I just thought of a new feature we could add in. I'm going to go ahead and just do a new feature. I'll press in. I noticed that on the file browser, there's no way for me to type the first couple of letters of the file or the folder to filter down the list. For example, if I type I, it should filter down what's displayed inside the file browser and just show the folders that start with I. Okay, so you can basically add in a prompt here. This is just a traditional like Kanban description, but I am going to kick this off to a different branch so it can do work tree. So I'm gonna go over here and I will make a new branch and we will call this auto file browser quick search. I don't know, I'll go ahead and create that and I'll kick that one off. And then if we go over here, we have file browser quick search work tree that has one card in it. And here it is. This is the card where now what we could do is we can kick this off. So I can either click and drag this to in progress. I can turn in the auto mode, which I'll kind of demo in a little bit, or I can just press G real quick. So we have like hotkeys for everything that make it a better user experience. And if you want to be a power user, you can just quickly like go to wherever you want. And now this is actually going to run an agent on that directory inside of that work tree. So if I were to go to the Automaker repo and go over here to work trees, there will be one for what we just created. File browser quick search, there's a folder. It basically clones your entire branch that you have selected. And then it's going to start adding features to that work tree. And eventually I should be able to go over here and we could see there'll be changes here. Okay, but the point is that we won't have to use cursor when you're using Automaker. Hopefully we can get this powerful enough where everything is just basically kicked off through here. Now, as you can tell, I have a bunch of other work trees set up. And so eventually what I'm going to do is come through and I need to verify these things, right? So I could show you a different project. Let's go to the Automaker marketing site. I'm going to go ahead and just add a little feature here. And I'm going to say, can you please add a button to the top that says FAQ and then add an FAQ section if we don't already have one to the landing page. And then I'll say other branch, FAQ. You can also just do this right in the main branch if you want to, but I like doing it on the work trees to kind of keep it a little bit separated. And I'm also going to kick this one off. Now, what I want to show you, if I go over here, I'm going to say start dev server, and that's going to load up a dev server launching the service that I'm kind of working on. So this is the Automaker marketing site. I kicked off the dev server and I can go and view it just by clicking this button. And I can also open this up and go straight to cursor. If for some reason I do have to get my hands dirty and code a little bit, I can load up the project right here and I can see that we have the Automaker FAQ work tree set up. It does take some time to initialize. Here we go. So now we could eventually see some changes come in here in a bit when it actually changes the index. Now, while this is cooking, what you can do is press 1 and go view the logs. And you can see the agent is basically, doing some writes to a file. It's reading the index file. You can go and see any git diff changes if you want, which right now doesn't have any. And then you can also get the raw output. But right now it's still trying to do the work to add in the button to the FAQ section on the homepage. And then eventually this thing will be done. And I can kind of show you the workflow of making a pull request, getting that merged into the repo, and then some other features as well that we have in Automaker. Okay, while the FAQ is still running, let me show some other features. So you notice that I have like a cool color background. You can go into any of these projects and change the theme to whatever you want. So I could do a retro theme here. And I'm going to go and modify the background image. So we have the ability to add in some cool background images. So I could basically add in something like this. We can make the cards a little bit more transparent so it's easier to see the background. And then we can just go back and maybe I'll change this actually to like a purple view. Let's see if I have like a purple one. I think Synthwave is pretty good. And then I can create new things for icon generator, which is another application that I have. Again, same process, But the main takeaway for this is that I want to be able to customize every project so I can quickly know I'm looking at the Automaker project, or I'm looking at the agentic jumpstart project. These are features we add in when we notice an actual issue. When you have all the same theme used for every single project, it becomes problematic because you're kicking off features and you realize, oh, I just kicked it off on the wrong project, right? So we added things that actually make the user experience better. And I'm actually using this like every day and testing with it and building with it. We've only scratched the surface of Automaker, right? This is just a Kanban board. We also have all these other things. Like for example, if I go back to my Automaker project, I want to kick off a agent here and ask it a question. Can you explain what the tech stack is for this code base? Okay, we can go over here and I'm gonna hide my head. I can show you that we have different models you can select. So we have Sonnet, we have Haiku, and we have Opus. So I'm just going to do Haiku here. I'm going to kick this off so it'll be a little bit faster. And then this will kind of traverse the code base of the Automaker project and answer my question. Again, while this is running, I could go back to any of these other things and check, okay, this one's done now. So the FAQ is actually done. And I could go and load it up and check. We have an FAQ section over here. Boom. Awesome. So that looks good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to commit this. And then I'm going to go over here and just create a pull request to my actual repo. I'm going to just default it. It'll just generate a name for you. And then I'm going to go view the pull request over here. And then we have a pull request on the Automaker marketing site from the SAQ branch to the main. And that's how easy it is to kind of like get your work out there. And this was super useful because as your project is larger and you have more people working on it, it's nice to work on smaller branches. So you can kick these off as pull requests and have CodeRabbit or have Gemini review your code and kind of give you some feedback. And then once it's done, you can basically just complete this thing. And then we're going to close. I'm going to delete this whole work tree from my computer. And then we'll go back to main, right? So now we're kind of done with the Automaker marketing. Let's go back to the Automaker. Let's go to the sessions I had open. Let's go here and how we have some output for the session. It kind of tells us like the structure of the project, this tech stack we're using, etc. So we have the core features for basically chatting with an LM, the core features for creating tasks. And then we also have the ability to load up a terminal. So if you do want to get your hands dirty and like load up Claude Code, you can simply go over here, load up a terminal, and then you can type in Claude Danger or whatever Claude Code, and you can load up an instance, or if you're using OpenCode or Codex, you still have that ability where you can just kick off a terminal and then actually start cooking on whatever your favorite editor actually is. Like this. Now, some other cool things that we have is the ability to throw in context. So if you have a certain project and you want to throw in some Tanstack start docs or some design documentation, you can go ahead and throw those into a file. So like some context, and then I'll say like some context about whatever. Okay, go ahead and kick that off. And now we have a file that we can come through here and we can actually edit it later on if you want to. And then we have AI profiles. This one, not too important. Basically, you can customize, like a name for a certain model. We do plan to add in other types of things, like Codex at one point was getting added in, but we decided to stop doing that. We'll come back and add Codex. Getting in the cursor CLI so that we can do Composer 1 would be a big win because Composer 1 is actually pretty nice. So that's the main flow of like, I manually want to just kind of like kick off some tasks, have Automaker make them. I can go create pull requests very easily and go review them. But there's a whole nother feature of Automaker, which I think kind of spurred on this whole idea and this whole project. So if you want to create a brand new project, I'm going to go here. And let's say I wanted to create a project that was related about creating a application where I can edit my YouTube videos. I'm going to go and just create starter kit. I'm going to say YouTube. Actually, let me change the workspace here. I'm going to go up one to workspace. I'm going to select that folder. I'm going to say, I'll just call it Auto Clipper, right? Basically, it's going to take a YouTube video and clip out the stuff I don't care about. Like sometimes when I'm recording a video, I mess up. I have I clear my throat. I have dead air. I want this thing to go through and just find all the places using AI and help me just edit them. So let's click on a template. I do have some templates already set up. MIT license. This is the Automaker starter kit. It's a bare bones starter kit that just has like Tanstack start, Postgres, has Drizzle, Orem, Better Auth, Stripe. And if you do want to build a SaaS, this is probably the one you want to start with. I'll click on this one and we'll create a project. And so that's going to kick off a project where you can then ask Automaker to generate all the features for this project, right? So instead of you having to sit here and think about every feature, you can actually just create an app spec file, and then you can describe what your project's going to do. As a YouTuber, I often record a lot of videos. I have a bunch of dead air. I have places where I cough or I need to clip out. I want you to help me make a visual tool where I can upload a video and then I can edit it and clip out the areas where I've messed up. Now, I need you to identify where these dead air areas are by using AI and maybe using Python scripts to figure out if there's sections of the video where I'm not speaking or I'm just sitting there. If there's sections where I've maybe repeated and I have a bunch of retakes, I want you to take the very last retake, make this a really nice application. And then I can go ahead and say, I want to create 100 features over this. Okay, so let's just generate the spec. And this will take some time because it does have to, churn through and generate this giant idea. But as it's doing that, you can go to the spec editor. And this is the initial template that it's going to basically come through and modify. So it's going to analyze my current code base and try to understand what tech stack I'm currently using for AutoClipper. And then it's going to come back and modify the tech stack to sync up with my code. And then eventually it'll come through and add in a ton of features that we want to implement. And the purpose of this whole file is that this helps describe your project. So later on when you're kicking off new agents, it can use this app spec file to get a better understanding of how your code base kind of works and all the features that you have planned out, and give it a holistic view so when it's adding more, it can't like overwrite some other features you already added. All right, so this is done. You can kind of read through this and you see now we have 106 features here, and a lot of them are going to be marked automatically with the priority. So these are high priority items. This one says build component for selecting export format, build Python node service wraparound FFmpeg for video composition, format conversions in quality encoding. All right. So a lot of these you might have to go through here and actually like figure out which ones are important. But the one thing I'll point out is that there's a lock on a lot of these. Now what the lock does is that there's an actual dependency graph so that Automaker doesn't work on tasks that have some other tasks that needs to be worked on first. So for example, on a project, typically you can't add in, role-based authorization if you haven't even added a way to do authentication in your application. So you have dependencies in your features, and this is kind of marking that. So the ones that Automaker will actually pull will be at the top, and it has to get through all these before it can move on to the locked ones. So over here we have the slider. This is going to tell Automaker how many features you can work on concurrently throughout your whole project, right? So this kind of limits how many credits you're using. And if you want to kind of throttle that down, you can move it down to 1 and just do one feature at a time. It helps reduce the chance of having collisions. But if you want to actually work on a bunch of features at the same time. Now, for a brand new project, I would probably say keep it at 1, right? Let it kind of start adding in the features, the new pages, the new routes, and then you can start cranking it up to bring in more work. So I'm going to kick this off. And this was the main thing that we wanted to build with Automaker, is like, let this run all night, come back in the morning and see how much it's done. And then you'll have all these cards waiting for your approval. You go, you check them out, you verify them one by one. But we also have testing built in. So if you notice over here, we have enable automated testing. And this is actually going to use playwright tests. As it's building out the feature, it'll write playwright tests. And then it uses those tests to keep on implementing and checking to make sure it's doing the right thing. And then when it's done, it'll move it already to the waiting approval that you can actually just check. So this is how it kind of works. And I can kind of slide it up to 4 and just kind of see what happens. And honestly, now I could just set my computer to the side and just let this run all night long. Eventually you will hit your limits in Claude Code, and you have to come back and probably kick off some of these tasks again. We have the ability to resume things that have failed. You can stop these and resume them at any time. But overall, that's kind of how Automaker kind of works. You can view all your running agents over here if you want to. So if you're working on different projects at the same time, you can go and view which project's kind of cooking on which features and what tasks. But yeah, I'll probably make another video, a follow-up video if you guys are interested in the output of this. I'm going to let this run as long as I can and try to get through all these features, because this is an application I actually need. I record a lot of videos. I do a lot of mess ups in my videos. I do a lot of retakes, one long video. And it'd be nice if I didn't have to spend all day like editing these things and cutting out the bad parts. So that's an overall view of Automaker. I definitely recommend you go check it out. The repo will be pasted below. Remember, go to Automaker.app and then you can go to the repo, and then you can, hopefully you'll start on this project so we can kind of get some more exposure. But this is what we're kind of working on. So if you guys are interested, go check it out. I do think this is kind of game changing, right? This is changing how we're working with building on applications. Before, we have these like overly, no offense, bloated tools. Like Cursor's pretty intense, right? But now we have a simpler way to view your project from a holistic project management standpoint, but then kick off tasks to build out the application underneath the hood. And I do think this will eventually become kind of the future of how developers work. Like, it's not about diving to the code all the time. It's about these high level tasks, and we can hook these up into more agents to do code reviews. We can hook them into agents to do security reviews. And if any of those agents find an issue, they can kick it back to in progress and refine. which is actually something I didn't even mention. So let me mention that real quick. Yeah, I didn't mention the refinement, but if it's in waiting approval, you can actually refine it. If you find something that's wrong, you can click refine, you can add in another prompt, and that'll kick it back to in progress and kick off the same agent with the context window and basically try to fix whatever improvements that you asked for. All right, that's about it. Go check it out. Have a good day and happy coding.